This is episode 289, How to Go Beyond Pretending. Build your authenticity through acting as if. This is going to be a short one, folks. You're welcome. Someone asked me the other day why acting as if is different than pretending. And they said, I've been pretending my whole life and I don't want to do that anymore. Acting as if sounds like pretending to me. Now, if you're not familiar with the phrase act as if, it's a common saying in 12 step recovery. It's one of the ways we learn to adopt new ways of being in the world. We act as if we are who we want to be. This is an excellent question to ask. What is the difference between acting as if and pretending? I think that it has everything to do with your intentions. When we are acting as if, we are engaging in the behaviors that people engage in who have what we want. A very common situation in recovery where people talk about acting as if is in regard to a higher power. Many people come into recovery as atheists or agnostics, and they have no idea what it could mean to have a higher power. But they tend to see that the people with the best recovery have some kind of a higher power, whether it's something that they choose to call God or not. Acting as if you have a higher power is what they're often told. So, this is even if you don't believe in any kind of a higher power. So, what are the behaviors that people engage in who believe in a higher power? Well, they do things like pray, meditate, hand things over to their higher power. They ask for guidance. Perhaps they write letters, that sort of thing. Acting as if is engaging in the behaviors toward the goal of achieving something positive in your life. You do it when you want to grow in a certain area and you're not sure how to do it. So you emulate the people around you who are doing what you want to do or have the kind of life you want to have. One of my fellows in recovery was told over 40 years ago by her first sponsor, write down everything you prayed for in a notebook on the left side of the page, and then on the right side, write down what resulted from those prayers. She saw so many of her prayers come true that it caused her to believe there's something to this whole higher power thing that everyone is talking about. Now, this was a woman who grew up in a church and her family was very religious, but they weren't spiritual. And she just felt like God had given up on her. And this really changed everything for her. So now she teaches her sponsees this same method when they have difficulty relating to a higher power. They're emulating her behavior. They're acting as if they have a higher power by doing the behaviors that she did. All right. Now, when it comes to pretending, it's not about growing at all. It's typically about hiding. Like, I don't want people to know who I really am. So I'm going to pretend that things are okay with me. I'm going to pretend that I'm happy when I'm really not. I'm going to pretend that I like things that I don't like. With pretending, the goal isn't growth like it is with acting as if. It's really more about hiding who you really are. Personally, I have done so much pretending in my life that for the longest time, I didn't even want to dress up for Halloween because I was so tired of pretending in my day to day life that I wasn't about to pretend for a party. I was a chameleon. And at the time, I thought that was a good thing because I can fit in anywhere. But really, if you can fit in anywhere, then you don't really belong anywhere. It was like I had these different masks on, and stepping out from behind those masks and stopping pretending has been an incredible gift of my journey of recovery. In the ACA program, there are 12 promises that you're likely to experience when you have been in recovery for a while. And promise number one is we will discover our real identity. Now, personally, I think that it should be we will discover slash create our real identity because when we say we will discover it, it makes it sound like, oh, it was hidden and had some dust on it and we just have to brush it off. But if we grew up in dysfunction, that means there are parts of ourselves that did not ever get to fully develop because we were hiding it, pretending, and that sort of thing. Discovering my real identity was about stepping out from behind all of those masks, no longer being a chameleon, and becoming my authentic self. In retrospect, I realized that the reason I did all that pretending was to protect myself. I was protecting myself from others' rejection, abandonment, judgment, etc. Meanwhile, I was rejecting, abandoning, and judging myself because I knew that I was fucking faking it. And then I was defensive all the time because I didn't want people to see behind the masks. The way that I learned to step out from behind those masks was the boundary building process. Prior to building boundaries, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was okay and not okay. I didn't know what I liked, wanted, needed, and preferred. And the journey of building boundaries was me getting to know that stuff about myself so that I could set boundaries in my life in such a way that I got to be the real, authentic me and step out from behind those masks. I also learned in retrospect that for me anyway, those masks weren't entirely fake versions of me. It was more like I morphed myself out of proportion rather than completely faking it. For example, one of my quote masks was, I like what you like. Really? The real me wants to be an agreeable person, but I don't want to be agreeable to the point where I'm doing things that I don't like doing or participating in activities I don't enjoy, going to places I don't like, watching sports I don't care about, eating foods I don't like. Because of my masks, I was always agreeing to do these kinds of things because, well, that's what they wanted. And, what makes me happy is when you're happy. Now, when we're acting as if we're actually trying to grow in certain areas and we're using behavior modification to do that, we're changing our behavior by modeling or by emulating the behavior that others model for us. So it's a completely different goal, a completely different intention, and a different method. But I can see why people might confuse acting as if as pretending, because when you're pretending, you're probably also acting as if you like shit that you don't like, and you're probably doing a fair amount of of pretending. Sorry about that. So that's it for today. Shortest episode in a long time. I hope I got my point across pretty succinctly. You're feeling overwhelmed because you're overcommitted and just can't keep up. You neglect yourself even though you know you should take better care of yourself, but you just don't have the time. You really want to say no, but just can't get yourself to do it because you don't want to come across as selfish or unhelpful. And you're pretending things are okay with you when they're really not. If this is you, we should talk. Go to barbchat.net and sign up for a free 30-minute call with me about my private coaching. This is for people who are finally ready to make deep, lasting changes in their lives, their relationship patterns, including their relationships with themselves, their partners, family, friends, and colleagues. That's barbchat.net. If you like this podcast, and I'm guessing you did because you're still listening, you will also love my weekly newsletter, Friday Fragments, which has short essays similar to the podcast. You can check it out at fridayfragments.news. That's fridayfragments.news. If you haven't already subscribed to my podcast on your favorite podcast outlet, please do that. It helps carry the message to more people. I started this podcast because there was so much wisdom in recovery that just wasn't making its way out into the world. So I want as many people as possible to hear it. I'd also love it if you'd leave a 5-star rating or a review, which you can do on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find it so they can get the benefits that you've gotten from listening. If someone in particular came to mind when you listen to this episode, please share it with them. And my favorite place to hang out on social media is Instagram. I'm at Higher Power Coaching. Please DM me there. I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. I run private and group coaching programs on building healthy boundaries. Whether you need help with boundaries in your personal, professional, or romantic life, I can help. Head on over to barbchat.net where you can get on my calendar for a free 30-minute Better Boundaries consultation. I also do short-term situational coaching to help people make it through specific situations they're going through, such as divorce, empty nesting, preparing for retirement, or any phase where their identity is shifting. Regardless of the type of coaching, my ideal client is someone who is ripe for change. If that's you, I'd love to work with you. My goal with all my work is to help you make lasting changes in your life, like I've made deep, lasting changes in my life. Remember, it's never too late to recover. No one is beyond hope, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening.